Hi, this is Elizabeth with Felted Sky Studio, here with the instructions for our Hard Garland needle felting kit. So if you've purchased the kit, then there are just a few other things that you need before you get started. So the most important one is some kind of a foam mat for needle felting. So you just want to make sure it's dense, thick foam so that it can serve as your work surface and that the needle will not poke through. You also should have a measuring tape or ruler on hand for towards the end of the project when we're stringing, and maybe a scissors when we cut off the excess string at the very end. And then the only other thing you might want to have is a rubber glove, and I'll talk about that when we get to that part. That can just help to pull the hearts through onto the string if they're not going on easily. Okay, so let me go ahead and open up the kit. I just want to mention a few more things before we begin. Here's all the stuff we have in the kit. So just in terms of needle safety, I just want to mention that the needle is in this piece of foam board just because it is very sharp. It definitely hurts if you get poked. So if you have kids around, and also just so you don't lose it, or pets around, it's good to keep it in the foam board when you're not using it. Or one other place that I sometimes will stick my needle is in the side of, what a lovely sound that was, but into the side of my foam mat, and that just keeps it safe when it's not in use. And then in here, I also want to just point out one thing on the instruction sheet. So since you're watching the video, that's great, and the video is the best way to learn. But for people that like to have written instructions, or if you want to follow along in here, every step is numbered. So everything that we're going to do has a corresponding little instruction line and picture. And the little numbers at the top, those are timestamps that coincide with the video. So that makes it really handy if you want to back up or fast forward to certain steps. You can follow along with your instruction sheet and get there quickly. Okay, so I think we are ready to begin. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take our ball of roving, and we need to divide it up into fairly equal lengths that we'll use to make the hearts. So just start unrolling it, and I'll try and keep this all in the frame mostly. Oh, I lost it. Okay. So there I have unwound the ball, and I'm going to find both ends. So figure out, here it is. So I'm going to find both ends and hold them together. There they are. And then we're just going to get all the way back to the other side. Here's where they're folded. And I'm just going to pull it apart there. So then I'm going to take one of those and divide it in half again. I'm trying to find the ends here. Okay, there I have both ends of one piece. So back here to this fold, so I'll pull that apart. Set these pieces down, and then I'm going to go get the other original piece that we separated and find its ends, and get back to the fold of that one. Alright, so now I should have 4 pretty equal pieces. So that was the point of that. And then we want to do 12 hearts. I mean, you could do more or less, make them bigger or smaller. That's all up to you. But if you're trying to mimic my project. I have 12 hearts, and so each of these 4 pieces then I'm going to divide into 3 pieces that seem fairly even. So I'm just going to take a minute here to kind of figure out what looks like fairly even thirds. And they don't have to be exact. This looks pretty good. So there are my 3 pieces all ready to go there. And good measure, it might come out about right if you just measured. Sometimes the roving is a little thicker or a little thinner, so it might come out a bit different, but this was about 24 inches. So if you prefer just to measure out your pieces being 24 inches, it should come out about right also. So we would just do the same thing, whichever method you want to use. You could divide the rest of the pieces in thirds, or go ahead and break them off at 24 inches. Okay, so this is what we have, and now we are ready to start the next thing. So to make a heart with roving, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the piece of roving and break it in half. And I'm going to take the first piece and I'm just going to pull just very gently. This is called drafting, but I'm just doing just a tiny bit of it, just pulling just so that the fibers are all lined up, and it kind of flattens it out just a little bit. So then I'm going to just take the end and start rolling. So I'm rolling something that's about maybe 1 inch by 1 inch, or a little bit bigger than that. So it's more of a flat square shape here. So that's going in that direction. Then I'm going to take the other piece of roving and again just draft it out just a little bit, just pulling very gently just to smooth it out. And this has a little piece of vegetable matter here, so if you ever see little things like that, that's just from the sheep, grass or hay or straw. So okay, so now what we're going to do is roll in the other direction. So you can see the fibers, we just rolled this way. I'm going to turn it and we're going to roll the other direction. So I'm just going to fold this piece of roving over and we're going to start rolling in the other direction. Okay, so that's what we have. And sometimes also in this white you can see some little darker hairs and fibers that got in there. So you can also pick those out if you want to. Alright, so then we're ready to start our shaping. And so what we're going to do for the heart is to first poke down in the middle. So all we're doing, the needle has these little barbs on it. It's very hard to see on the video. You can probably see those in person. So those barbs are just going to tangle the fibers and make them felt together. That just means they're going to shrink down and really become firm and solid, and we can sculpt wherever we poke the needle. It's going to sculpt the wool. So we're just going to start the shaping by poking down. It's fine if you're hitting the mat. That's what you hear when you hit the mat with the needle, but that's fine. That's why it's there. So once I've got my little dent in the top here, I'm going to go to the other end and I'm going to poke down at more of an angle and work on shaping the point at the bottom. So this is going to come together here at the bottom and be the point of the heart. So I'll try and hold it so you can see. So I'm just poking kind of in a downward direction here, starting that shaping there for the bottom of the heart, and then I'm going to turn it over and poke in the opposite direction to shape the other side. So here's what we have started. You can see we already have a start to our shape here. Okay, so now we're going to just keep working on it. So I'm going to go back over my center point there, or the dent rather, and flip it over and see what's happening on the other side. So I'm going to keep working in the middle here and kind of push this wool. You can see it's kind of sticking up there. We're going to angle the needle in the direction that we want the wool to move in and to flatten out. So if I have kind of a lumpy part, I'm going to angle it the direction that I want to push the wool. So I'm going to stay very gentle when I'm poking the top rounded parts here, and then we'll poke slightly more vigorously down here at the bottom point where we really want a lot of wool to condense in that one area. So I'm just going to lightly take the needle and poke on these sides, and we just kind of move the heart all around as we go poking all over. We don't want to finish any one part too quickly because it's hard to undo once you've flattened something out and got it felted. So we want to just kind of work all over until it ends up looking how we want. So you can kind of take it from every side. Just be careful of your fingers on your hand that you're holding the heart with, not to poke them. Just kind of working it from every angle here, making sure that we're kind of just gradually shaping. So if we have one part that seems a little lopsided, we're going to poke more on the side that's bigger, and it will shrink down. And I'll also remember to keep flipping it over to the other side. A lot of times you'll get one side looking good, but when you flip it over, the other side still needs some work. So in the middle here and at the bottom, I'm having to poke a little harder, but I don't want to poke very hard still on our rounded tops here. They would not stay round enough. So it's hard to see, but I'm going very gently on these parts and not as gently as I'm working the bottom and the middle. Okay, so we want to go until we like the shape and it's kind of a good firmness for this project. So the bottom will be pretty firm. We still want a little give up here at the top. So we're going to be stringing the thread or the twine right through here. So if that was really felted a lot, it would be hard to get that piece of twine through there. So we want it to hold its shape, but we don't want it super hard and felted, especially at the top. This is a really nice little sculptural project to start with because you get to practice it 12 times if you're making this garland. And once you've done hearts like this without a cookie cutter or some template like that, kind of get an idea of how the shaping works when you're needle felting, and you can move on to other projects that are a little more difficult. We are almost done here. Just like to flip from side to side just to make sure looking good. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this heart. I'm going to call this one finished, and then we can move on to the next part. Okay, so once you've finished all 12 hearts, we are ready to string them. So you'll need to get out your string, and probably also a good idea to have a ruler or measuring tape handy, unless you just want to wing it. You can still have your felting needle handy, and then the needle, the tapestry needle here that we're going to use for stringing. And then the last thing would be a rubber glove, clean of course. That just helps to pull the needle through if you're having trouble getting a good grip on it. Sometimes it can be hard to pull it through the hearts, so that's just somewhat helpful. Okay, so what we're going to do, move those out of the way for a second, is we're going to take our string here and I'm going to make sure I don't have any tangles. It's pretty long. So on one end, I'm going to take the tapestry needle and go ahead and thread that. See if we can get it through here. Of course, it's wanting to be difficult. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that through just a few inches here, and then I'm going to kind of pinch it here just so that goes through the hearts as best as possible. Okay, so on the other end from the needle, get back to the other end here, we're going to measure out about 16 inches. So that is just so we have some room there for tying it when we're ready to hang it. I get about 16 inches, and then I'm just going to put a knot right here. Just a regular knot. I'm going to pull all this through. So we have a knot at about 16 inches. Okay, so back to our needle. I'm going to go ahead and get a heart, and what we're going to do is poke the needle through the top part here. So we want it to go through about here. Definitely keep it towards the top, because if it gets towards the middle, the hearts will not hang upright. They tend to kind of droop on the string. And we try and get it through fairly straight, something like that. Now this one's going through easily. We'll see if they all do. If you can't get it to pull through easily, that's when you could put on the glove and wiggle it and give it a good tug with your glove on to pull it through if it's being difficult. So now I'm just going to slide this all the way down to our knot there. So that's going to hold it in place. And then sometimes it gets a little bit fuzzed up, or we get a dimple here where we were pulling it through. So you can take your felting needle and kind of pop this side out if you need to. You can also take it and just gently tuck in any fibers that we're looking to fuzzy over here. Okay, so we're going to put a knot on the other side of the heart to hold it in place. So we're going to do this same process for each heart. Oh, I think something got a little tangled. There we go. The other knot. Mine were perhaps a bit close there. See if I can fix this. So we don't want it right up on the heart. Just a little bit of extra space there. Okay, so now we have 2 knots in place and we're ready to move to the next heart. So I'm gonna get my measuring tape, or if you have a ruler handy, I'm going to measure 7 inches in between the hearts. And again, you could vary this. There isn't a lot of extra string to make them farther apart, but if you want them closer together, you could definitely do that. So I'm going to pull through here with our second knot, or the second heart rather, where it's going to go. So there's that. Get another heart. Sometimes you have to work with it a bit to get the needle coming through in the right place evenly. Alright, well, this one is going right through as well. Alright, there we are at our heart. So again, I'm going to see if I need to pop out the side of it there at all. Looks pretty good. Put the knot on the other side. Okay, so since we're just following that same process to get the rest of the hearts on there, I am going to speed up the video, and you can still watch if you want to get the rest of the hearts on, but we're just doing that exact same thing till they're all on there. All right. Okay, so now we've got all of our hearts strung, and we can go ahead and take off our needle, and there should be just a little bit extra here, and you can trim the string if you want. Take off the part where we had the needle, and that is our finished garland. So I hope you really enjoyed this project, and I hope you like the way that your hearts turned out. And if you want to find more of our kits or other supplies to make something else, you can find us at feltedsky.com or Felted Sky on Etsy. So thanks for joining me, and as always, happy felting!